Ladies and gentlemen, FC25 just released title update number 9, and I wanted to talk to you about what this shows us as far as how EA Sports is going to be proceeding in the future with both these updates and larger patches, right? This says a lot. So let's get into it. Now, what kind of changes were made? Nothing huge, right? I would say the biggest one is they are finally addressing an opponent quitting at a tie. Now, they are very cautious at the start, which I understand. They do not want to roll out some huge change and have it turn into an exploit. So, for instance, it can count as a win for a player who, when the opponent quits, if they go into the pause menu and quit the game, and it is only after receiving a red card or when the opponent concedes a penalty kick, right? Which is awesome. That does happen quite a bit. It is annoying when opponents quit during those times. So at least it's better, right? It's going in the right direction. Now, an opponent can easily just quickly rage and press the PS button or whatever you do on Xbox and then quit the game entirely, and it sounds like that will not result in a win for you if the opponent leaves when it's tied. And not only that, but it is also limited to the number of times you can do it. Obviously, they're worried about players being able to use this as a cheat to get easy wins. And you better believe, as we all know, the cheats always find a way. So I totally understand this from EA Sports. Not mad at them about cautiously rolling this out. I'm just glad they're finally addressing it and it's heading in the right direction. That's a good thing. Now, the most important part of this is actually what they're not doing. So I want to read this little passage, okay? The feature update will release for EA Sports FC in the coming days, okay, blah, blah, blah. They talk about it. Now, this is the most important part I want you to hear. We saw your positive reactions to the previous gameplay refresh update and want to make sure we're maintaining a consistent gameplay experience. So we are not making any changes to the balance of the game in this update. We're addressing, and then they talk about some of the things they're addressing, right? We're continuing to review your feedback around gameplay and will make further updates based on that in the future. This is something that EA Sports has forever not been good at, okay? So first off, they see that we are enjoying the game right now. So why fix something that's not broken? That is excellent, okay? Something for my UFL fans, right, which includes myself. I want more games than just FC. I don't want there just to be FC again, okay? So UFL, take note of this, right? Yes, I guarantee you EA Sports took note of you guys, whether they will ever admit it or not, because you were very good at answering your player base. But the thing is, once you have something that's a good product or going in the right direction, you're still never going to make everyone happy. So you have to make that judgment to keep it when it's in a good place. And so far, you've had a few different times, especially your very first release, right? The game was in a good place, but instead of just making minor changes, you guys decided to try to, again, like I use the term, split the baby and make everyone happy, and that's just never going to happen. So if there is a way, like without me knowing the details of coding and game development stuff, but if there's a way to revert back to that, closer at least to that original release, the gameplay during that original initial release of the game, right? Or even during the early access, please do that, because I guarantee you not only will your player base be happy, but it will generate that buzz again. I promise you more players will start to play, even if they play both games, and don't just leave FC, since FC's now in a good place. So back to what EA Sports is doing right now, they are addressing the player base, right? They're seeing what kind of feedback they get, and then they are going to make changes according to that. What it typically was is they ignore the player base altogether, and then you would get these updates, and some of them were clearly from, hearing the feedback, some of the changes that EA Sports would make, and other ones just made no sense, but they wouldn't address the player base at all. Even if you knew some of the ideas came from the player base, it's just like they wouldn't explain it, and some things were just coming out of left field, and it was just frustrating. So it's nice to see that change, but another thing that competitors need to take note of is the slow rolling changes, right? Be cautious. Not just on this change with the players leaving at a 0-0 tie, or not just 0-0, at any tie and getting the loss if they disconnect from the game. They're taking that slowly, so they can make sure there are no exploits. That's the right way to do it. They also did this with tweaking the defense, right? Right after the initial patch, they did a small tweak, and you can definitely see the changes. It went from literal like double-digit goals every game to more reasonable, and your skill on defense can absolutely prevent your team, the opponent's team, from getting an outrageous number of goals. Now, if you aren't skilled at defense, yes, you're going to give up a lot of goals, but that should be the case. Now, the biggest point I want you to take out of that is they slowly adjusted it, and if for some reason it was still off or there was issues, they would have slowly adjusted it during this title update. But they did it right the first time. They didn't just make some major change because too many of, like, mainly the casual players didn't like how hard it was to defend. No, they slowly increased it. In that way, they have a product that they were confident with, and obviously it was a great response from the player base. That's what these competitors, such as UFL, needs to do. What they did instead was they heard, the complaints, and then they would try to full-on fix everything in these patches. So far, they've had 3 major patches, and it created a ton of issues. Now, I'm not saying EA Sports ever did that. What I think EA Sports did was kind of selfishly just fix what they could and leave what they couldn't. I think it was as simple as that. They were already making a ton of money. As far as the numbers go, the game was super successful. So I don't think they even paid attention to how pissed off their player base got as they went. UFL did the opposite. They tried to literally make changes to appease to everybody. Every major thing that they heard feedback-wise, or even some smaller things, they tried to just fix it all. And what it led to, honestly, was the game was more broken than it was. It was worse off than it was before these patches due to them going that route. So, for FC25, you couldn't be happier if you're just a sole player of FC, of the FC franchise. They're doing it correct now. They finally have learned from their mistakes clearly. The wording in this title update, just the way they're doing these things, it shows that they're in a good place right now, and the player base can obviously be confident. UFL, you can only hope that Strikers is sitting there realizing that something's got to give, and let's hope a smart company will always look at the competitors and see what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, what they can fix, and hopefully they can take note of this from EA Sports, compared to all the issues and problems EA Sports had in the past, and try to get rid of those things that Strikers is doing, similar to how EA Sports did it when FC was terrible, and gear more towards like the good things that EA Sports is doing now, on top of some of the good things that Strikers has done, right? Their initial product that they released was incredible, and they still have that in their bag. It's not like it's impossible to go back to that unless they code it in a way where they can never go back, which I don't know anything about coding or creating games, like I said earlier, but I'd have to assume that's not the case. I just am thinking that they are still on this path of trying to appease everyone, and it's just not possible. So, with that being said, FC25 in a brilliant place. UFL, I'm still rooting for you. Keep going, and I don't know much about eFootball. Now, if you're watching this video and you are a fan of eFootball, or you think that there is coverage and it is warranted and there could be a good player base for it, and you want to see me dive deeper into eFootball, I did a brief journey previously, and I wasn't fond of the game. I think the defense is just far too OP to make it a true football simulator. I feel like it takes too much skill out of it, and if you know anything about my previous videos, that's the biggest thing with football games, or any game, any competitive game. It has to be skill-based, right? So, with that being said, let me know. I'm always open to covering any games, especially any football games on this channel, right? And until next time, keep grinding, keep having fun. Peace out.